Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Juan Londono and today's topic is photography for me. Before we move on to the topic, I just want to say there are 2 points that I'm adding at the end. So it's really like 7 points. I was going to say this is a 5-point video to help you decide if photography is for you or not. But there are an additional 2 points that I'm including at the end, so stick around. Who is this video really for? So I have 3 people in mind. The first is the photographer, well, the person that's thinking about getting into photography. So they don't really own a camera or they don't own a nice camera. They have basically a phone most of the time. And they're trying to decide if photography is for them or not. So are they going to take that initial step? Are they going to buy a kit camera with a kit lens, maybe a bag as a minimum, right? That's the first person that this video is for, because they may not know if they want to take that initial investment. Is it going to be something I like or not? You know, it'd be nice if they could sit with somebody, with a photographer, and kind of discuss like what are the things that are coming my way that I don't even know about, to help me decide if I'm even going to like this or not. Some people buy that camera and then they realize, oh gosh, this wasn't for me. So I hope that this video helps this group of people. The second type of person this video is for is the person that already made that initial step. They bought that kit camera and the kit lens, and they go around shooting some of the time. They shoot their family, and they're a little bit intimidated by it. The camera has a lot of, numbers on it, so many menus to pick from. The lens is full of numbers, and they're starting to get intimidated when they hear other people that do photography, that have been doing it longer, speaking about all these things. They start feeling intimidated, and they're starting to wonder, like, is this even for me? Did I get into this? Like, should I just go back to using my phone? And just so you know, this is very popular among motorcycle riders. So I think if I had to pick a number, I'm going to use the Pareto principle here. I would say 80% of the people that buy motorcycles for the first time end up getting so intimidated by the motorcycle that they end up selling it. That's why if you are ever in the motorcycle market, you find motorcycles that are between 3 all the way to 7 and even 10 years old with 300 miles. And you go, how can that be? How can this guy have had, or this gal have had a motorcycle for 10 years and the motorcycle only has 308 miles? That's a whole nother issue, because if they weren't running the engine all the time, you're going to have a problem where the gasoline crystallized and it turns into like varnish, and then it messes up either your carburetor or your fuel injectors. But that's a whole nother point. The point here is that motorcycle riders get on that bike, they buy it, and then they realize, ooh, this is very different from a bicycle. Oh my gosh, the rear wheel slips out a couple of times on the road in traffic, and then they park the bike when they get home, and they think about, like, I don't know when the next time I'm going to take you out is. I got to get a little more comfortable with you, and they never really do. So I'm trying to help that group of people here in this video, because if you've already bought that camera and you're intimidated by all the numbers and all the jargon, well, hopefully this helps answer the question, are you going to stay with photography or not? The third group, and the final group here, is that photographer that already has been shooting for a while. They've already grown their lens collection. They might even be on their second camera, and they're starting to wonder, am I going to keep doing this? Phones are getting pretty good. Am I going to continue buying lenses? If I upgrade my camera and I end up going from DSLR to mirrorless, I may have to switch out my lens collection. Am I going to keep doing this for the rest of my life? I don't know. And finally, the group that is not here, that I'm not covering in this video, is the group of professional photographers that have been doing this and making a living from it for a while. The reason I say I'm not covering them here, there's another video I did that covers that topic, and another one I'm doing that's going to go into it even more, where I dive into taking up photography as a career. And I want to cover one of the points is going to be, at the very end, people that have been doing it for a while and start burning out, or just asking themselves, do I want to do this anymore? This video is not for you. You're welcome to stay if you're a professional photographer. Stick around and find out, if this is maybe a video that can help somebody you know. I will add at the end of the video and in the description the video that I already have that might help photographers that have been doing this for a while decide if they want to stick with this or not. It's a video on creative barriers. When you reach that point where you hit a wall and you're just not growing anymore. You've been doing it for a while and you feel burnt out. So check it out. Moving on to the topic now. Is photography for me or not? Well, to answer that question, I need to know what I need to know about photography, if that makes any sense. So basically, what do I need to know about photography in order to answer the question, is photography for me or not? Number one to keep in mind, photography has jargon. What's jargon? It's the lingo, it's the language that photographers throw around and everybody else just goes, huh? What does that mean, right? Photography, like any other career, has lingo, has jargon. For example, full frame versus crop sensors, or micro four thirds, which is a type of crop sensor. Zoom lenses versus prime lenses. And in prime lenses, you have standard lenses, macro lenses, or now called micro lenses by some companies. Talking about cameras, we have DSLRs. We have film cameras. We have DSLRs. We have mirrorless cameras. We have rangefinder cameras. What is all that? Inside the camera itself, we have ISO, aperture, shutter speed, and then probably hundreds of other things, including IBIS, exposure compensation, bracketing, and so on and so on and so on. We have tripods, we have monopods, and the list just goes on. But remember, every discipline has this type of jargon or lingo. So don't let it intimidate you. Just be aware that if you haven't gotten into photography yet, or you're just getting in, or you've been in it for a little while, all this stuff exists. And if you're going to continue with photography, these are things that you're going to be working with, right? And they'll stick. The more you do it, the more you're going to hear these things, the more they're going to stick, and then they become second nature. If you're going to become professional and you want to make money off of photography, then you really have to make an effort to learn these things. But just keep in mind, there is a lot of jargon. Number two, photography has a technical side, for sure. This is neither good or bad. It's just a fact of life. Cameras were always slightly technical, even back in the film day. You still had to adjust shutter speed, and you had to figure out what ISO you were using, and aperture, what aperture you needed for certain effects that you wanted. So there was a technical side to all this, always. Now with digital cameras, you have menus that go on and on forever, and it's even more technical if you want to look at it that way. And of course, there's the editing suite, right? You have all the software to edit and make your pictures look prettier. So there's the technical side of that as well. Going back to film cameras, you know, when we weren't talking about the digital realm, there was the classic physics about all these cameras, right? The weight, the way the optics worked, you know, the different apertures back in the day, what film was doing, and when you went up in ISO, how grainy it got. So there was classical physics going on there. And then as we get into the digital realm, now you start getting into all kinds of things, including math. So what are some of these technical things? Well, there are optics, right? The lenses. Depth of field comes with optics, knowing what depth of field to use, when. And when it comes to optics, there's the classic aperture scale. And what that means is there are certain apertures like 1.4, 2.0, 2.8, 4.0, where you go from one to the other, and as you're going from one to the other, you're cutting your light in half, or when you go in the opposite direction from one to the other, you're doubling your light. And that's a very important concept in photography, that if we're going to get any serious about photography and we're going to shoot in manual mode at all, and control our pictures a little more than just letting the camera do everything automatically, we have to learn that classic aperture scale. It's related to optics. There's the correlation between telephoto lenses and image compression. And the more telephoto you get, the more compressed your images become. And what that means, of course, right? Knowing what that means. And understanding that if you put that telephoto lens on a full frame sensor camera, it's going to be even more compressed than if you use it on a crop sensor camera. There's the relationship between wide angle lenses and distortion and vignetting. Distortion is around the edges, vignetting is typically in the corners. It's physics, it's just the way it is. Some camera companies or lens manufacturers are better at getting around that, and they charge you more for that. But most of the time you can correct for that in post-production or post-processing. Understanding the correlation between shutter speed and image blur, and how if you slow down your shutter speed too much, your pictures become blurry. And then again, back to the physics side of shutter speed, when you go from certain shutter speeds to others incrementally, it cuts your light in half. And when you go from, in the reverse order, back down the scale, it doubles your light. As opposed to just picking random, going from one random number to another, and not knowing if it doubled or halved your light. It's very important to know that when you're working the two together, aperture and shutter speed. Image stabilization, and what is it and what is it used for, and when do we use it, more importantly, because believe it or not, there are times when we're shooting where we don't want to turn IS on. And from this list that we're going through right now, last but not least is a light source. And there are large light sources, medium light sources, and very small light sources. Understanding what kind of shadows they create and how to use them on your subjects depending on what you're shooting. So all of this can be learned, right? All of this technical side of photography can be learned. And the truth is, the more we start playing with it and reading little things and looking up little things, it all starts coming very quickly. So don't get intimidated by it. The point I'm making here is that there is a technical side of photography. So if, this is something that has always bothered you, just be aware that it's there. If it's something that you love that challenge, then, maybe this is even more for you than you thought so. Number 3, if you didn't know it already, photography has a creative side. There are things like composition, knowing how to place your camera, right? So that you get the right picture, basically. There's also lighting, but not the lighting from the technical side we were talking about, light sources and their sizes and where to put them to create certain shadows. No, here I'm talking about what kind of lighting best suits your subject. And what I mean by that is, am I shooting them outdoors? Am I shooting them inside with some natural lamps, from around the house or the apartment? Am I going to, put some artificial light around them? That kind of, question. What kind of lighting best suits my subject, and how do I want to position their face so the light suits them better? Angles. We have to consider angles. Am I shooting from low? Am I shooting from up above, from the sides? Some kind of combination of these. Am I shooting through things, from behind stuff? Always a question. Color versus black and white. When do I use color? When is it beneficial for me to use color? When is it more beneficial to use black and white? And on your camera, there's always a choice of settings, right? And a choice of lenses you're going to use. So that comes into play kind of on the creative side and the technical side. But on the creative side, it's very important, because if you're looking for a certain look or feel, you've got to know what kind of settings you're going to play with and what kind of lenses you're going to use. And something I call location/observation. And it's basically knowing where you're going to shoot your subjects or whatever you're trying to shoot. And then if you just happen to be in a particular area, observation, just looking around you, right? You could be driving through the Mojave Desert and look around and go, oh my gosh, there's nothing here to photograph. Or you can look at the cool Joshua trees and go, ooh, these things are pretty creepy. I bet you I can do some really cool black and whites, especially if I can get the light behind one of them. Ooh. So there's observation, just looking around and maximizing the things that are around you. If you've always considered yourself not to be very creative, this can be developed, right? You can do it by watching YouTube videos, by reading, by just practicing, right? By looking at other photographers, seeing their work, and then going out and trying to mimic some of these things. So the creative side can be gotten. Don't worry about that. If you've considered yourself not a very creative person, that comes. It comes with time, but you have to put time into it. How much time are you willing to invest? That's a question in photography as well, right? For the technical side and for the creative side. What I will say is, if you're not very creative, or you consider yourself not to be, and it's not something you're interested in at all, then maybe photography is not the best hobby. I have to be upfront with everybody here, because I don't want you to go out and spend all this money on a camera and lens and bag and then realize, oh man, I didn't know there was so much creativity involved. There is a lot of creativity involved, right? Just like there is in painting and in any sculpting and any kind of the arts, music. There's a lot of creativity. So if that's something that actually bothers you, and you consider yourself more mathematically inclined and you don't want the creative side, then think about it, because there are many other hobbies you can take up. Point number 4 to keep in mind when deciding if photography is for you or not is, good photography equipment can be pricey. My friend Alan tells me that his father used to say, the definition of a great hobby is one that is willing to take all the money that you can throw at it. And let me tell you, photography will not disappoint you. I know that all the professional photographers out there, or the photographers that have been doing this for a little while, even as a hobby and have accrued some gear, are all saying, amen, brother. Because I know there's money to be spent and there's money that I'm sure has been spent. But that said, you can buy a really nice used camera now for $300, $350. And when I say a nice camera, I'm talking like a full frame DSLR from a few years back. And you can buy a nice entry-level prime lens, like a 50mm 1.8. If you buy it used, it'll be under $100. If you buy it new, it's $125. So you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started, and you can still take some beautiful pictures with that gear. Adding to that, however, if you want more flexibility and super duper creativity and all that stuff, you will have to spend more money, because when you spend for a much better camera and much better lenses, it just lets you do things a lot easier. That's an interesting concept that comes up a lot in these videos and in other photographers' videos. You know, how important is the gear? And I will say that if you're starting out, buying expensive gear isn't going to make your pictures much nicer because you don't know the basics yet. When you've been doing photography for a while and you understand all the basics and the foundation of photography, then when you buy this extra fancy camera with high megapixels and fast, burst rates and all that, and you buy a really good lens with a wide aperture, then you can maximize all that and you can really get some amazing pictures where probably you were a little bit limited with your first camera and your first lens, right? So it's going to open the door a little bit. It's not going to make or break your work. It's going to make it easier for you to take good pictures, right? With the other system, with your first camera and lens, it's going to be a little harder to create, an image that really pops out, but you can do it, right? And when you're starting out, the truth is you put the camera on automatic anyway, and you learn simple things like composition and just getting around and shooting from certain angles, right? So that's why the gear at up front is not very important when you're starting. As you get better and you understand all the basics and you understand photography well, you can upgrade to better gear because then you can squeeze all that functionality out of that gear and get the most out of it. I hope that makes sense. But the bottom line is, if you want to play with the big boys and the big girls, you need to spend the dough. And point number 5, which is originally the last point, is that the tools of the trade are always changing. Think about it. We went from film to DSLR to mirrorless, right? And actually, back in the film days, there was SLRs and rangefinder cameras. So, technology keeps evolving and changing. Your editing programs, as I mentioned earlier, they're changing. They're getting fancier. Before you had to buy them. Now you kind of do the subscription basis. And what they can do now is short of miraculous. I mean, it's amazing. Even phones, for that matter. You can buy portrait programs, landscape programs that help you do these things easier. You can buy presets from photographers where you can click through and just make your pictures look amazing just with the click of a button. Also, video is becoming more important. So if you're a photographer, not just because people are going to ask you to do videography, but if you want to create little videos of your photography, you're going to have to learn how to do videos and edit videos. So keep that in mind too. That's picking up a lot of momentum. There's new gear coming out every day. And this is one that kills a lot of people because after a couple of years, the stuff you bought a few years back, or a couple of years back, starts looking like second grade because everything coming out is better, it's faster, it's lighter, it's fancier, it's prettier, whatever, right? So don't let that bother you. If you're happy with what you have and you're making it work for you, then that's it. Just keep using it. Now, if you have that other camera in your sights or that other lens in your sights, grow into it, get better, and then when you feel you deserve it, buy it, right? There's nothing wrong with that. And then hold on to that for a while and use it, right? But, don't go crazy trying to keep up with the fad and the fashion of photography because things are coming out every single day. At the end of the day, just understand that like any other trade, the tools are constantly changing and there are always new ones coming out. We just have to be mindful of the fact that there's time involved here. We have to spend time to learn these and to keep up to date with them. So we're at the point of the video where we're going to talk about the bonus points. And these are the 2 additional points I mentioned early on. Not everybody that gets into photography is going to plan to make money off of it. But if you do, if you have that in the back of your mind, like I like to make money someday, keep in mind there's a social side to photography. And by social side, I mean 2 things. Let's cover them here. The first one is understanding people. A Understanding people becomes critical if you're going to start making money off photography, because they're going to be your customers and they may even be your assistants. At this point, anything we have with attitudes, where we wake up in the morning on the wrong side of the bed, that's gone. You can't do that, right? You can't have a bad day in front of a customer. It doesn't work that way. Even in front of a person that's helping you out, one of your employees, if you want to call them that, right? Assistants. Some assistants you get for free from colleges, which I always paid them anyway. Others, they know they're going to get paid to help you with a wedding, for example, but you have to treat them right. It doesn't matter how you woke up that day. It doesn't matter how you feel. It doesn't matter what's happening in your relationship. We have to learn to separate these things, right? Because we have to treat people fairly. And that brings up the next thing, respect. We have to treat people with respect at all times. The people that are working with us and the people that we're working for. A quick way to grow in the photography world is to be known as a photographer that is respectful and just likable by everybody, right? You treat everybody nice. You're always happy around them. People love that because people are having bad days. And when you come across them, they look to you for a little bit of support. And when they see you're happy and you're smiling and you love working with them, I know photographers that keep extremely busy just on their personality. And their photography is great, by the way, but their personality just hooks everybody in, and they're always going to be busy because of that. And of course, there's kindness, right? Empathy. Always keep that in mind, whether it's the person that's helping you out or the person you're working with. Understand that people do have complications in their life. So be flexible when people are asking for a little bit of negotiation. Be kind. Even if you're not willing to give, be kind with your words. Again, all of this can be learned if we don't feel we're good at it. If I don't feel, for example, I'm really good around people, I can learn that, right? I can buy a couple of psychology books. I can learn how to read people. All that is very important. But I will say, like I did before, if this is not something that interests you, people don't interest you, working around people doesn't interest you, then maybe the professional side of photography is not for you. Maybe we need to keep it as a hobby at that point, and which is perfectly fine as well. There's nothing wrong with that. On the side of understanding people, there's also the understanding your clients, knowing when you don't want to work with them. There's a video that I've done, but I haven't released yet, on interviewing your customers as well. They're interviewing you to know if you're capable of shooting the event that they have planned. But you have to interview them, and that's where understanding people comes in. Knowing if this is a customer or client that you want to work with. Are they more complicated than your average client? Maybe you just want to move on. Let somebody else take them. So let another photographer that's not practicing people skills, let them take them. And you can move on from that. Avoid the trouble. It's a lot of trouble. Trust me. I've been there. So point B, or point number 2 of the extra 2 points at the end here, the bonus points, is marketing and sales, or sales and marketing. We have to become salesmen and marketing gurus if we're going to grow our business. For one, we should have a website. Right? There has to be a place where people can land and check out our stuff. Whether you do the website yourself with like Squarespace or Wix or whatever you use, or if you're going to pay somebody to do it, that's fine. Just keep in mind, it's going to help you a great deal, and it's going to help you grow faster. You're going to need to spend a lot of time on social media, networking, right? And sales. This is where you're getting around, you're meeting people, people are meeting you, people are seeing your work, you're getting out there, they're seeing what you're capable of. This is the networking side, and sales, right? You're promoting yourself and trying to get work. It's all marketing, sales, it's all mixed at this point. And to do all this, we can always use more social skills. I mean, even those of us that are good with people and around people and are respectful and kind, we can always improve our social skills. Don't ever think that we've reached the point where we want to be, because I would tell you not to do that with photography either. When you reach a point where you're cranking out really good pictures consistently, ask yourself, what else can I learn? What else can I do? What more can I practice, right? And the final point of that second bonus point, a final tip is just keep in mind that photography takes money. Whether it's a little bit of money to start up, more money later on to dump into marketing and sales and your website and all that stuff, or for professional gear, it's going to take money no matter how you spin it, right? I mean, photography is a hobby, and like my friend's father used to say, it's one that'll take as much money as you're willing to throw at it. We have reached our conclusion. So as a conclusion, I hope that now you are able to take some of these points we talked about, and that they give you a better idea. Even if you were starting out and you had been doing it for a year, you probably heard some of these and went, ooh, I don't really understand that too well, or I've never heard of that, or I've heard of that, but I don't really know it comfortably enough. I hope this helps you decide if photography is going to be for you, or if photography is going to be something you want to continue with. The truth is, only you can decide. Nobody can make that decision for you. So don't try to get that from other people. Don't try to ask around, do you think I would make a good photographer? Look at my pictures, do you think? Because at the beginning we all suck, right? I have a video on that. The first 10,000 pictures are our worst. And that's going to come out later. But the point is, we have to shoot for a long time. Don't go up to somebody and if they say, oh my God, your photography is not that great, and you bought all this gear, don't let that influence you. If you have a passion to move forward and learn and get better, that's all that matters, right? So is photography for you? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you switched your mind after you watched the video, or let me know if you're still, thinking that it is what you thought. Maybe it wasn't for you, and now after watching this, you know it's not for you, or maybe it was for you, and now you really, really know it's for you. If you found this video useful, like it down here on your bottom left. Please subscribe on your bottom right, and hit the little notification bell when you subscribe so it lets you know when a new video comes out. Share this with anybody that might like it, and let me know what you think in the comments. I love you guys. Thank you for watching. I love the fact that you lend me your time every week. I hope you guys are doing well. Continue to drink your water. We didn't talk about a water break today. I hope you were drinking your water as you were watching this. I took a few sips between clips. Take care of yourselves. Take your vitamins. Like I said, drink your water. Stay hydrated. Stay healthy. And I will see you in the next video. Ciao for now.